I was going to tell you about the guy I interviewed earlier. All right, folks, back 7 p.m. Thursday, every other Thursday. It's been a couple every other Thursdays, but I'm back with Billy Ferguson. Business, leadership, and lessons learned on the Jeff Robertson Show. Billy, what's going on,
Hey,
man? What you been doing?
same old, man. Just got through the holidays, got through the election. I think the last time we was on was right after the election, so
Yep.
all that's behind us now, and got the holidays behind us, and it's time to start out 2026 and try to do some great things.
Man,
Glad to be
I wanted to tell you right off the bat, and folks, for the folks that's tuning in, a very public safety centered audience that we'll have on here most times. That's going to be listening to this. Check out I did a live today, 2:30. And this guy's been trying to catch up since back before the holidays. But his name's Erik Holt, Erik Holt. Was a Texas guy, I think, and then ended up over to Colorado as a fire chief, and he kind of stumbled into some election fraud. I guess they have boards that run their fire departments out there, and he uncovered some what he thinks is election fraud and reported it, and basically lost his job and some other stuff. So really neat listening to him explain his journey. So if you get time, I'll send you the link. But for the other folks that's out there, I told him, man, I was like, it's just such a neat story, and you hear about the election fraud or whatever, but he's got video evidence. He was able to capture video and then a little bit of audio to show that it actually did happen, and he got fired and suing for his job and some other stuff. He's just trying to get his story out there, and I always when I do those, like it's just one of those situations where you get to be. He's telling you his story. It's your opinion, or you're up to you to how you want to receive it or what have you. But for the public safety community, we all have touched, seen folks that are wrongfully terminated or end up in a situation or what have you. And his was pretty unique, Billy. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Didn't shoot it to me. It must be, something in the water with elected bodies because just recently. There's been some issues here in Franklin County that was brought out on some. One of the board members got censured, and then it was over several different things and perceived things, and that's touched real close to home. And then finding out, that this week there was a board member in Pennsylvania County that's been arrested out in Alta Vista and charged with shoplifting, and it's innocent to proven guilty, but they've got some pretty good video that's been broadcast from there. And also there's another member of the Patrick County Board been censored for, I think, some freedom of speech things. And let's see, there's one other county, I think it was Stafford County, had somebody that's went through some issues when they tried to call other members of the board into question on some tactics. So it must be, something in the water. Going around.
Yeah.
Martinsville, the issues. I think everybody knows what's going on down in the city of Martinsville.
What's happening?
Well, they had that the city manager down there was terminated, and she's saying it was some lack of due process there, and the other side is saying that she was fired for just cause for some spending habits and stuff, and they paid for a forensic audit that was done by a company out in, actually a company that I've done some work for out in Richmond, Sands Anderson. It's a law firm, and they have completed the audit, and now a couple of the board members of the city council, it would be requested that state police come in and do look at the audit for criminal aspects of it. And something happened tonight, and I just caught the end of it, but I'm thinking maybe that the audit was released to the public tonight. I know that it hadn't been released, and when I came in tonight and flipped the TV on, they was interviewing some citizens out on the street in Martinsville. So I don't know if that's what was going on or not, but apparently it's been in the water, and people are drinking it, Kool-Aid or whatever it is, and it's going around. So it looks like that same gentleman is going through the same thing out in Colorado.
Yeah. I don't, it's, you see that, I guess we've seen that a lot. yeah, it's like police chiefs and managers of public organizations, and when they're terminated, it's like they get to have this big standing, and um, it's like they feel like they're not immune to being held to whatever that higher standard is. I don't know what words I'm looking for. Like in the private sector, somebody in a very top position gets fired. Like there's a documentation, human resource, everybody steps in and is like, hey, today's going, we're giving you a severance or whatever that might look like. If it's gross, like you might just be, somebody might be freeing up your future. And it goes quietly. And I'm sure there's lawsuits, and I'm they're in the news or media, but it's always like the public sector is people plant that "you can't do this to me" flag, and when you see, I saw some other stuff that was out there where people had created some financial problems, and they were offboarded for that, but they called it wrongful termination. Like, wait a minute, you created this entire havoc off of an inefficient report or an inaccurate report or whatever, and then you're shucking the accountability that comes with that. I just don't understand that sometimes, I guess.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think counter argument to that is that, and I can't speak for other localities, and I'm sure it's different in different size localities with the amount of resources that's available. I give you an example. In my locality, when I was there was one HR person. There's two there now for over 500 employees. I'll give you an example. Chesterfield County, which is 300,000 population, they had 6 HR people, and each one of them specialized in a particular part of HR. So if you had a retirement question, you asked that retirement question. If you had a policy question, you asked a certain person about that. And I can speak for my county. I retired there on April 1st, 2024, and the policy manual had not been updated since 2009.
Yeah.
And so I think that, and then I think you going into like the HR being on you, I think, well, when you're in small town USA, everybody knows everybody, and you're working with that governing board, and your job is held in the hands of 7 people or 5 people, how many is ever on that board. So I think that adds a little bit more to it. And one thing that I see, and again, it's and I use myself as an example. So I work for the county. I'd been there, 27 years when I was promoted to director. So I came in on May 31st, and I was the chief of operations. Well, on June 1st, I was the chief. And there was no additional training. There was no mentorship. So it was just assumed that I knew everything that I was supposed to do as chief. And I guess the knee-jerk reaction to that is, well, you've been there 27 years. You should have knew everything. Well, you think you do till you're sitting in the seat. And there's things that came up. So I think I blame some of that blame is on the locality, not just, I think you see that out a lot. And I think it's more in smaller localities. I think that, it'd be kind of like you hiring me. I know you're in the private sector as a gym owner. It'd be kind of like you hiring me off the street and, telling me, hey, go over here to Richmond. I'm opening up a new gym. And by the way, you're the manager.
Yeah.
I've never run a gym before, but, so I think that it's lack of preparation or lack of planning on the government's part or on the employer's part. And I don't think it's their fault. I think that was recognized, but the funding wasn't there, and the powers that be would not give you the funding, and so I think just as a counter argument to what you say, that brings a lot of that into play. I think you don't see as much of that in the private sector.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you just it's when we talked about some of those before, to where it seems like there's sometimes just can be a lack of accountability, and I understand they are they have their own things, but just standing on the outside and watching like some of the stuff is, and the other thing I think has changed, Billy, back in the day when someone got some scrutiny, like when you got a little mud coming your way and it didn't take as much mud, or when you kind of stepped on it, on a landmine from a public relations thing, like you were just like somebody like, I'm going to resign. I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to, it's me being here as a distraction. It's keeping them from mission. They anchor in now and they're like, yep, prove it, dog. It's, you got to throw me out of here. There's no, we changed, it maybe evolved or whatever, but we don't, there's no, resign, kind of let everything die down. And then we're talking about the day of the internet to where it's, where it's hard for things to go to bed now. Um, I'm going to resign. I brought, hey, I brought shame to the department. I'm going to resign, or I was caught this or what have you. And then they fade out of public life, and then they slowly make their way back in. I've watched some folks that had that, exposure and went through something negative. And I've seen them creeping back into, the limelight and as a personality here, whatever, just kind of making their way back into, to wherever. But now, folks, like there's no more. I'm not resigning. Like the stuff in Minnesota, the governor's kind of right there. And he's like, I'm just not running again. I ain't resigning. Y'all going to throw me out of here.
Well,
They anchor in.
that you dig your heels in, but a lot of that, you and I've been friends for a long time, and I won't name no names, but you'll certainly know who I'm talking about. Let's go back to the 1980s and 1990s, and if you came in with a complaint to the boss and the boss didn't like your complaint, he said the lane company's always hiring. You can just go to the lane company and go to work.
Yeah.
And in today's world, and I'm not arguing whether this is right or wrong, but there's so many laws and the like that are there to protect the employee, but sometimes it's it's hard to terminate an employee.
Yeah.
That may need terminating. And you kind of correlate the NFL to it. The whole game is to tackle the guy with the ball, but now there's so many rules about, well, if you hit his head, we're gonna eject you from the game, and you can't hold him and you can't trip him, and how am I supposed to tackle him if I can't do any of that stuff like that? So it's the same way. I go out here and need to terminate an employee. I had another example of an employee that had done some stuff that I thought was a terminatable offense. And I went to my HR person and they agreed with me that they thought it was a terminatable offense. Well, we met with the employee and discussed termination. We had to give them what was called a letter of intent. We had to give you a letter that we intend to take disciplinary action in so many days, and you had so many days to come back. Well, this guy walks in, a couple days after this letter of intent with a letter from like a counselor saying that he suffers PTSD, and that's why he's doing all this stuff. But then that just tied our hands. And where do you draw the line on that? I mean, I understand the PTSD, and I think it is real, and I think that you and I both have some of it there, but there comes, or I think there's a fine line there on it. Or yes, you may have PTSD, and yes, it cost you to do what you did, but in that same token, if you have that issue, or you fit for duty to do the job, and I don't know how you get around that, and we never did resolve that problem. I'm retired. This guy's still working.
Yeah.
So I just don't know how, and I don't know if it is an answer. I mean,
well, and I'm not, man. My heart goes out, right? Because I'm all right. Well, here's what I would tell you that I think where it probably all worked out, and this is a thing where sometimes it doesn't work out, where something where the employee just would have been compromised, maybe in an accident, or maybe in in some kind of negative interaction with the public, then that surfaces. Well, they know. And then the department ends up, that's, we never take action when everything's going smooth. We're never preventive enough. Like, remember, traffic light cams going through town. And several jurisdictions don't have that. So we're never proactive until something negative happens. And then we're like, we put a policy in place, or we make a rule, or we figure it out. But most, that's probably happens a lot. We just, it doesn't go to the next level.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I do a lot of instruction with Ferguson Safety Solutions. And part of that, I do that is policy development. And one of the things that I stress in that is exactly what you said, that every policy that your organization will come out with is written in blood. And what I mean by that is that you as an employer didn't just go home one night and go, I need to write a policy on X. Somebody done something that got killed, got hurt, got litigated, either in your organization or somewhere else, that caused that policy to be brought up. So it's just, you just shouldn't pull some policy out of the air and decide I'm going to create it. Something happened that caused that policy to be developed. And that's why that I use that phrase, that they're all written in blood. Something happened. When you're out there, what you're looking at. But anyway, and then you can't. I think sometimes maybe you can over policy yourself. Now, I'm a proponent of creating policies, but you got to be careful that you don't back yourself into a corner. And that there's some people out there will try you every way to get around the policy. And I can give you an example of that. In my former employer, we had a policy that you cannot, anytime I think the way the policy is written, if you put your vehicle into reverse, there was some extenuating circumstances, but basically if you put the vehicle into reverse, you had to have a spotter behind the vehicle.
Yeah.
And we had put those words in there. If you placed the vehicle into reverse, and we thought that tied up everything. So one day we had an employee that was observed back in a vehicle, and there was no spotter. So the supervisor with the department called him in and had a counseling session and was going to document it. And the employee says, well, I didn't violate any policy. And the supervisor says, well, you was backing up without a spotter. And the employee says, well, if you read the policy, it says to place the vehicle in reverse and back up. He said, I never put the vehicle in reverse. I put it in neutral. It was just rolling backwards. So,
that's me. That's the crap I'd pull on you, Billy. You know that.
Nothing to do. So, sometimes you had to really look at those policies, and somebody will still figure a way to split hairs and get out of it. But I don't know how we got in this conversation, but we're there, and it's good dialogue.
Yeah, no, we were just talking about Erik Holt and his situation, and it kind of mushroomed into the locals. Because we asked, Martinsville did get their results. I just put a little AI in here. They did get those results, and according to what I just read, that they're probably meeting now. I think that was the timeliness, was the report was out and they had a meeting tonight, or they were holding a special meeting around this time to discuss the audit. And then you're correct on the Patrick County thing. I looked that up, but I don't. You mentioned Ferguson Safety Solutions, Billy, on the business segment of business leadership and lessons learned. What's been going on Ferguson Safety Solutions?
Well, we have our ups and downs, and you have your busy times and you have your slow times, and you have to punt and look at other avenues and do things. But right now we're ramping up. We just finished a program out at a company here in southern Franklin County that we had been doing work for several years for them, and we did our annual OSHA update for them back in December. So that was always a pleasure, and we've already booked this December to go back and renew. And
Why is
And
that
also,
important, Billy? Why does a business need to have OSHA updates? Why
well,
is that important?
most of your organizations of public employment, uh, you have to go by OSHA standards, and certain policies you have to have, and certain hoops you have to jump through based on what the activity of your business is. This business deals with solvents. And so with solvents, they have to have what's called a HAZSWAP or 1910-120 program. And that can be it can be anywhere from 40 to 24 hours, depending on what your job title is. If it's something that you are working with hazardous products every day, full time, then you have to have a 40-hour program and an 8-hour update once a year. If it's something where you occasionally working with a hazardous product, then you can get by with a 24-hour class, and you have to have an 8-hour update each year. And a lot of people don't realize stuff like that. Jeff, did you know if you employ over 10 folks, you have to have an emergency action plan. That's law. Lots of people don't know that until something goes wrong.
Right.
And if somebody comes in and wants to know what your emergency action plan is, and let's see a copy of it. Now, with that being said, it's not a lot of really guidance on what's required to be in that plan. There's best practices, but there's no document that says here's what's got to be there. But
What should be in it, Billy?
Well,
just give us like a
I
little.
think I think it goes back to what we just said. It's the type of business you run. If you're running an attorney's office and you've got 10 attorneys working there, let's just take Gentry and Locke, for example. It has probably 100 attorneys. Their emergency action plan is going to look drastically different than if we're doing it for DuPont Chemical. So what some of the minimum stuff would be an emergency action plan is, well, let's just look at today's society. Let's look at where are our exit routes in our facility. Are they the best? Where are we exiting to outside? Where are our fire extinguishers located? How do you operate the fire extinguishers? What happens if we have a weather event? How do we evacuate? Do we stay in? It's different. It's different for what you do for a tornado versus what you do for an earthquake. Where are do you have your personal protective equipment? Do you have that in there? What do you have? What happens if you have a hostage situation? What happens if you have you're running whatever office and you have an irate customer that comes there? How's that handled? What happens if the building catches on fire? How do we where do we evacuate to? Do we call 911? Do we attempt to put it? All that needs to be documented in a plan. And that's one of the things I do with Ferguson Safety Solutions is I help write those plans. That's one of the many things we do is help write those plans.
And Billy, where I come alongside with that part of it is I help craft the business continuity plan. All right, mm-hmm. This has happened. This has happened. What does it do? So when you get into your stuff, it's a great conversation, Billy, because this is overlooked. If your business is dependent on the phones ringing, what are you going to do when the phone line gets cut? And don't let your telephone company say, well, that just don't happen. It does. Been there. And then if you have a fire, if you have this, is there a fire in any setting will absolutely you could either throw your hands up or like I've been there. There's been different times, but just point being is all right. If these scenarios of, and it's just like if power goes off, something simple of what are you going to do when your power? Do you have a backup generator? Do you have backup batteries? There's a point in time we started on some battery stuff, and then we ended up having we deployed a generator. The team that we had, if the power went off, we were back up in about 4 minutes. Us having to crank a generator float now. I have folks now that have gas LP generators or gas generators that run off natural gas, and they automatically switch over. So electrical, and then phone, and then internet is making sure you have those contingency plans in place. So if you lose those things, so like a couple of the companies I've worked with on this, their phone system was all internet based, and I go, okay, well this is great, but we need a hotspot. Just it's worth paying a few extra dollars a month on your cell bill to have a hotspot. And then we earlier on, and we were using desktop computers. We ended up phasing half of our desktops out in favor of laptops. So that way, when power went off, we laptopped right into a hotspot, and our phones did too. And it's like we never missed a beat, man. So those are things like coming alongside of what you're saying, the business continuity plan. That's there's some short-term retail solutions. Yeah, go ahead.
That loops right back in so if I'm developing an emergency action plan for, Jeff Robinson Logistics, there would be a chapter in there that would include having a development of a continuity plan. Yeah. And that would be, and it would tell what needs to be contained in it. And then you would outsource that to somebody else to help develop that continuity plan. But you bring some great points up, and and again, it goes back to what your business is doing. If you had your business set up and you had generators, and you said we was back up and running in 4 minutes, well, that's commendable. But if I'm running an outpatient surgery center and I'm in there doing surgery, I ain't got 4 minutes to get back up. It'd be down none. I can't be down 4 seconds. So you've got to have something in there in place that, and not only you have one redundancy, you got to have triple redundancy. What happens when you and I've been there, you got the generator out back, and it's been out there for 5 years, and we ain't never used it except when we tested it on Friday. Well, today we need it, it won't start. Well, now we got to have that third redundancy there. So, that would be part of it. So let's develop this emergency action plan, and contained within that emergency action plan is a chapter on continuity of operations. If you're running, the local Wendy's, and I want my daily cup of coffee and my biscuit, as a customer, I really don't care about your power failure today. I want my cup of coffee and my biscuit. And you got a way to offer that, come up and offer that service, and all that is what's contained in the plan. So that's one of the many things that I do on that, and I also I do some work for an attorney or different attorneys as far as acting as an expert witness. So I'm working with an attorney group over in Roanoke right now, and I've got a meeting coming up next Thursday. I'm going to spend some time with them on a case prior to a deposition. We're going to do a deposition here in I think it's the 19th and 20th, I believe it is. And so I'm meeting with the attorney group before then to just go over basically understand the medical standpoint, of the medical view, to better educate the attorney. So when they're doing a deposition and somebody says, well, we have a cervical column backboard, they know what they're talking about. So I get paid to go in and do that. And then week after next, I'm going out to a long-time customer, been a 12, 13-year customer, out to Richmond area and do the HCA hospitals out there. I've done 3 hospitals for many years out there. Now this year is the first year we're doing 5 hospitals. So I'll be there the last week of this month, doing their 19, 10, 120, 24-hour program. And we'll cover a plethora of topics in there, from what is OSHA all the way up to workplace violence, to RCRA laws, which is hazardous waste disposal, protective equipment, and all. So this month is going to be a busy month for Ferguson Safety Solutions, and that's fantastic.
That's good, man. I got taking my Endodyne on the road, my little Endodyne leadership and all that mess. Um, I used AI to create a song, and that's what it says. Since Jeff Robertson, you may have heard it on my social, like talk about AI and all that leadership mess. I made it used AI. My daughter, when I'm getting ready to go somewhere, she's like, "You going to talk about that leadership mess, Dad?" Um, I'll be down in South Carolina in a couple days, a couple weeks, maybe next week, week after next. Going down to South Carolina to work for a day, maybe 2 days, and then I got some other stuff, some other companies like just that have same type industries, some manufacturers, some stuff like you're covering, to where they're just working on some more leadership and team development and bringing up some young leaders, just spinning them up through some good training that I've delivered a couple times. So people are sharing that word from the companies that I've worked with. They're like, man, hire this guy. So I'm really grateful for that. And then I'm going to speak in Reno in at the end of February. So those are kind of what my kind of my launching off, man. So I'm same type thing as that was. It's been really cool. Um, for that to come to life for me. And then I ended up trademarking that name and just worked through some other stuff, some firsts for me that I haven't done, that I just wanted to experience. I wanted to experience the trademarking process. I wanted to go through it and and I'm one of those knuckleheads. I used the AI to help guide me, but I kind of did it by myself to see if I could do it. And I'm waiting. There's like a year backlog on trademark, so I trademarked my name. And then I like the content. Endodyne, when you put it together, is power within. And so the whole thing is taking a common sense approach to help people discover. Like you kind of got the answers, just up to me to help pull those out and show you what it looks like, and then teaching them how to make good decisions out of good thought versus knee jerk reactions, unless you have to knee jerk. We've both been in situations where you have to make a quick decision, but just man, I'm really super stoked, and man, even more grateful that some of that stuff's coming off the ground for us. So good job on your side, man. Hopefully we'll be able to come together and mesh up on some of this stuff. I'm gonna get you
Yeah,
to hand out some business cards for me, man. Sling out some business cards for me.
yeah. We'll get them to me. And you left out one thing. I was actually saw a flyer today that said I want to say January 19th, I believe it was. Jeff Robinson coming to town, Franklin Center, to do a program on I think it was Smith Mountain Lake
Yeah,
Chamber of
yeah, chambers.
Commerce,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, yeah. Yep, I do those.
Yeah, I seen that today. I think so.
Yep, I do those through the.
So
They have the SBDC do those. So I got um, I very rarely speak about the SBDC work because it's government. It's not supposed to conflict with my business. But man, that you talk about keeping your cup full, is that's a fun it's a fun time working with them. And then, like you said, it gives me the opportunity to those will be teaching AI. So if you're Franklin Business, you got an opportunity. AI is kind of scary for a lot of people, Billy. There's some folks that are really progressing with it. Um, so I like getting in the rooms, and what I do with those AI classes is I kind of joke with everybody when I get there. I make that class up about, it's generally about this time the night before, and I'll just go with kind of whatever's buzzing in the world, and then I'll just outline my because I'm speaking for about 45 minutes to an hour, but I like to get what's fresh because AI is moving so fast, dude. That if I just had a presentation I gave all the time, it's outdated. So I wait until kind of time of within a few hours of delivering to give them the absolute latest and up to date information that I can on what's buzzing in the world. So last time I did some stuff on, now you used to for now a lot of folks are going to their Chat GPT or their learn language models to search the internet, like you're asking Alexa even. And so there's things you can do on your website. So I really taught that. It's called generative engine optimization. So there's things you can do on your website just to make AI help find you better. So I taught that the last time, and but I absolutely enjoy that, dude. Thank you for pointing that out.
I think some people are scared because they don't really understand what AI is. They think it's, I think some people think it's making human brains out of metal, and we're gonna have robots running up and down the street and don't do that. But I had something I wanted something that come up the other day, and I wanted to reflect back to when we first started doing these things. You and I was having some private conversations. So this came up over New Year's Day, and it's this little Snoopy cartoon. I'll send it to you later. And it says 7 things to quit in 2026. Number 1, pleasing everyone. Number 2, fear of change. Number 3, holding on to the past. Number 4, talking yourself down. Number 5, overthinking. Number 6, hiding your true self. And number 7, doubting your true worth. So
Yeah.
that goes back to what we talked about, I think, early on about, that everybody has a special talent. And what you think is just everyday things, other people pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to hear you explain that. So I thought that was really unique when I saw that right there, and just wanted to bring that up to you tonight and let you know
Yeah.
it was spot on. We talked about that a while back.
Dude, that's just we overlook those things. The one that probably is devaluing yourself. And I spoke a lot on that within my public safety podcasting that I do, and I always, because I know how I was with that. It's like you do dangerous things for not a lot of pay. And when you do dangerous things for a lot of pay, when you go to do simple things for a whole lot more pay, because that's what goes on in the private world, it doesn't compute for a lot of people. And that's us as public safety professionals. Is we don't mind. We strap. You have a point in time when I was, strapped up in a uniform, proud to make $35,000 a year, and so you get used to doing dangerous stuff for a little bit of pay, and that's what you sign up for, and we all understand that. But when you go to move, is making sure that you understand your self-worth and you get right with that, because it can, because like with me, is I had a negative relationship with money and all sorts of things, because I didn't like, I was there for the adventure, or I was there for, money just was never a motivator for a public safety person, because we're used to we enjoy the job and the things the job brings. Money's a secondary benefit for a lot of folks. Till you have family and kids, and then it becomes, a different thing. And, but I think that's the thing I would just really echo there, is make self-worth a big deal. And a lot of people struggle with that. And if you're not careful, someone else, the thing I made a metal sign, and I put it in an office that I get to go to. So I'll share it, but it's a metal sign. It's a little bit heavy, but I wanted it to make a memorable moment. So if you don't pursue your own goals, someone will use you to get theirs. And that comes along with that self-worth conversation and understanding, like, public safety professionals, we're trained, we do a lot of communications. You do, you spend time in negotiations that you don't realize, and then you just know how to manage task and stress and different things. So just understanding, like, in those, sometimes you land in the right spot. That's a 6-figure job. That's a 6.5-figure job, or could be a business that you start that is bringing in, a significant amount of money that a lot of folks aren't used to, just because. But that's the one that I always like to go down the rabbit hole a little bit, dude. Just reminding people of that.
Oh yeah, you are, and the opportunity for financial gain and monetary gain is really there, and it's kind of scary at first. What you said, I can go out and do a program, spend 3 days doing a program, and make more money than I made a month at my regular job. So it's out there, but you have to stay on top of things. So.
Yeah. No. What was the read those one more time?
Okay, let me get them back up here. I'll send you this. It was 7 things to quit in 2026. 1, pleasing everyone. 2, fear of change. 3, holding on to the past. 4, talking yourself down. 5, overthinking. 6, hiding your true self. And 7, doubting your worth.
That forgetting the past, several when I was doing the Second Chance podcast with Jeff Robertson, a lot of the folks that would end up on my show, we would have that conversation about, hey, they've been struggling. There's a lot, man. Me doing that, Billy, gave me a different outlook on just Jeff. And man, I really realized what a freaking purpose I have, and all those little things just part of the freaking overall plan, and really put a lot of things in perspective for me. And I just need to talk to like-minded individuals and really see through that. And part of it helped me discover, like we always say, hey man, you need to put the past in the past. You need to forgive yourself. And I use the example in a wreck I worked years ago where the tow truck hit the mashed car under the school bus, 220 South.
Mm-hmm. I was there.
Yeah, like I was there first. Like you guys, now Richard Law was there first, and then I got there second. But you guys, and there was another volunteer that was with me at you guys were late. I remember Jimmy Amos being with me, and there's a couple. I was like, but you guys, like, I was there, and I was trying to manage all that, and I just that call always was with me, and just because it was overwhelming, Billy, like it was just like there's a school bus, there's kids there, and just this, and it's just there was a lot of chaos, and so I had told someone, I was telling someone about it, and I was like, it's a great example of forgiving yourself. As you go back, you kind of think about, hey, could I do this a little different on that call? And I said, I'm oh crap, man, I'm coming up on almost 20 years being removed from public safety. Yes, 7, yeah, I mean, I'm within a few years, 7, yep. And some of those calls still, it was just like you ponder it or whatever. And I don't have, I share it with the wife, but I don't have the station or the network to really, and it was something I don't get to teach in a lot of the public safety settings. So it's easier for me to talk my way through a deload than it is for me to express it in my brain. And, but I found this thing called the Ho'oponopono prayer. It's an old Hawaiian prayer, man. And you just walk through, and I listened to a guy explain it. He was like, just go back to that moment and kind of walk with yourself and just forgive yourself. But there's a way that you say it. It's like, I love you. Please forgive me. I love. Thank you. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So I'm missing a word there. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And you're saying that to yourself. But I just walked along with myself there, getting out of my car, Dukes. I remember, like, I had to drive down the wrong lanes. I had to drive down the opposite lanes because traffic was backed up. Because you remember the nature of the accident, like traffic's backed up on the southbound side. So I had to jump. They had told me, like, hey, so I jumped and they blocked traffic, and I came up, and then there was your scene, and I just went back and played that, and in my head, Billy, when I was working through kind of this exercise of forgiving myself, was I did like it's like Jeff now was kind of held the door for Jeff then to get out of his police car. And I was like, all right, bud, come here. You're getting ready to do some crazy stuff. It's going to be all right. Everything's going to work out the way that it's intended to work out. And you're going to do your best today, and help's on the way. Just just remember, man, you're a whole lot smarter now than you were then. And so don't discount that. And man, I forgive you for what else going to go on today. And I just talked to myself through walking through, because I remember very vividly where all my steps were that day. And I just kind of walked with myself, and I just kept, I kind of repeated, like, hey, man, when I got down to the little girl part, I was like, hey, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And you want to talk about turning some corners when you say putting the past in the past. I got other moments, Billy, where I have fell extremely short and carried a little bit of embarrassment and just reflection on that for way too long. That and just kind of deploying that and walking in a similar mentality. So I tell you all that to tell you this is, and for the folks that are out there, is if you're struggling on putting that past in the past, give that a try. And the other thing I did, Billy, was I'll tell you this story at a different time because I got something I want to ask you. Is I found some old picture albums of me as a young kid, and there was some just when there was a lot going on in that young kid's life, and I kind of sat and I had to do something similar of just that. And man, you want to talk about really turning some corners in my mental health, and then I got a little bit evangelical. That's why I'm telling you the story now because I'm like, if it worked for me, hopefully it'll work for a lot of other people. So just anyway, if you ever hear anybody struggle with that, it's a good episode to share with them, folks. Um, Absolutely a game changer for me, Billy. If you struggle with it, anything that you have to have a hard time, whatever, just try that little trick and walk through it. If you need guidance with it, I recorded a podcast separately where I just kind of walk with somebody through it, and then I've got some other ones that work for me that I can send you or anyone that's out there. Just post in the comments or what have you, and I'll connect you with the stuff that I've used. But what I just said is basically it.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. And I think we all carry some. Go back to the PTSD. I'm not sure that's what it is, but you can't do the work we did and see the things we did, and you can't unsee it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's there.
They call it a moral injury,
I can
Billy.
tell you that.
You'll hear you'll hear
Right.
some professionals say the kind of the prelude to PTSD is moral injury.
So I think that it sticks with us. So
Yeah.
anyway, good conversation. Good conversation.
Tell me, all right, so folks, just so you know, back here, we're on the anniversary of a New Orleans shooting, and then we had a couple other updates that Billy had gathered, did some work on, and so we wanted to do a little leadership lessons learned. Kind of that's where we are probably now, Billy. Man, old Billy called me the other day, excited. He was going to share this with us. So, Billy, update us on the latest, on your latest news on what you've discovered.
Oh, absolutely. So let's go back a little bit before. I'm trying to bring some up here. Let's go back a little bit before New Orleans. Let's go back to the California fires. And ironically, that was a couple months before the New Orleans thing. But in 2023, I had an opportunity to be in the area where those fires were in Altadena, California, and look at Palisades, and I spent some time in Arcadia, California, and all this was around where those fires were at. And I think if you recall last year, we talked about where the problem points were, lack of water, lack of response, maybe some lack of maintenance in those areas because, there's lots of California laws that you have. But let's talk about where we're at today and where you may not hear in mainstream media. I see Governor Newsom doing a talk. Matter of fact, yesterday, how that how quickly that area was back on its feet, and he was proud of Californians to do what they do. But let's look at some. Let's look at a little data here that I've got. So, the Pacific Palisades there, which was a year ago, 74% of those folks still do not have homes in temporary housing. The Altadena, 65% of those people that were displaced are still without shelter. They're staying, rented places, whatever. They have not been able to rebuild their homes back. 48% of those folks depleted the amount of their savings. And 43% have taken on significant debt. And one of the things that really surprised me is most of those homes out there, Jeff, are not homes that you and I would live in. Those are multi-million-dollar homes that folks were fortunate enough to afford. So we know they have insurance. And one of the things that I learned that one of the insurance companies that were having the least amount of paid out claims was State Farm. They had paid out less claims than any other insurance company there. And the one that had paid out the most claims was USA, which, if you're not familiar with, is a government insurance. And I'd like to tell you, I know you look at you explore stuff a lot on the computer, so I want you, while you're there, to bring up just Google Department of Angels, and when you got some time, read through that. And it's a California-based group of folks that were affected by those fires. And this group has got together, and they're helping their neighborhood rebuild. And it's a really interesting thing to go through. And that is actually managed by one lady. And she has groups of folks that come in. But one individual that was affected by that fire and still doesn't have a home has put this together. And I think you'll find it interesting. But some of the fallout to that was the fire chief lost their job. And if you remember, they had and this kind of goes to the lesson learned part of what we're discussing, is that if you remember, they had lack of water supply, and they found out one of the reservoirs was dry. And now they've also they got that reservoir a couple months ago, got that reservoir back up and working. But lo and behold, a year later, that reservoir has been taken out of service. A couple of things that they talked about was at Los Angeles Fire Department had actually done some pre-planning for an incident like that in that particular neighborhood. And their pre-plan said it, they needed to pre-stage 44 pieces of apparatus in that area during fire season, and when there was significant chance of fire breaking out. That's what their plan said, 44 pieces of fire equipment. They had 3 staged there. And another thing that you will understand is that they did not have the proper equipment, nor maybe the proper training there was plenty of water. Because we're talking about these multi-million-dollar houses. Most of them had pools, but they didn't know how to draft water out of a static source. They would either pull it from a hydrant or out of a fire truck. So like you and I in a rural area, we find some water. We can get that water from point A to point B. They didn't know how to do that. They didn't know how to take suction unit and put it in and crank a suction. They didn't know how to do that. And I guess I'm going to get it a little bit. When I was in that world, I used to talk about why, I'm in my area. Why do I need to know how to fight a fire in a 70-story building? I ain't never going to have a 70-story building in my locality. Yeah. I'm sure they were thinking that, well, why am I ever need to draft water? I'm always going to have fire hydrants. I'm always going to have, but that's the time they're getting. So that's just the things that, that are still out there, still haven't been corrected. So I think that both California and I'll segue into New Orleans, that that was on New Year's Eve where they drove down the Bourbon Street there and killed some folks, injured several more. But this year they had the same event. Now I'm trying not to be critical of another locality because there may be things that they have put in place, especially from a security standpoint, that I don't know about. But as far as what was visible that you could see, it didn't look like a whole lot of changes had been made. It's kind of like, okay, it happened, it'll never happen again. So we're failing at lessons learned, or we're not acting on the lessons learned. Maybe we learned a lesson, we just didn't act on the mitigation to keep it from occurring in the future. So just some things that I want to bring up as food for thought tonight. Um, and we're always quick to have a knee jerk reaction to all these things. Then you kind of drop back and get a little complacent. I was just thinking this morning about some recent changes with the FAA. I know you and I both travel a lot by plane, and after 2001, take your shoes off and take your belt off and do all this stuff, and now you don't do it anymore. They just stopped it a couple months ago, and we're looking at doing other things. So, I'm afraid we're getting a little complacent. And, yeah, it was an inconvenience, and yeah, I didn't really like to do it, but I've been doing it for 25 years, so let's just keep doing it. But now they want to move it back, and that before long we have a shoe bomber on a plane or something to that effect. I think that sometimes there's lessons supposed to go with us, and we get back in place.
I think they've done a better job of rolling out some higher technology just for detection too, so it's less invasive for us. I did TSA pre just because I'm not well, I fly enough to where it makes sense for me to do it than having to be in the lines and all those things. I got other friends that's done clear. I'm not ready to do clear because that's your take a little picture of your retina basically. But
entry and
yeah. Here's what I was going to tell you is before they made these changes, when I was coming out of an airport not our own, and the guy was like, I was in the TSA pre-line. He's like, "Yep, belts and shoes," and I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." And he's like, "Yeah, well," I'm like, "No." And the guy in front of me, he's down, and I was like, "You TSA pre or you in the wrong line?" He said, "I'm TSA pre." I'm like, "The reason why we gave up fingerprints is so you don't have to take your shoes off." So they haven't changed anything. This guy's just taking his job a little too seriously. We're going to see how this plays out. I walked through the line. I'm not being cocky about it, but I'm just saying, like, they were sometimes as they want you to do more beyond what is required because they're taking their job a little serious that day or whatever it might be. But I was like, no, man, that's just why I did this part. So I've seen it on the opposite side. And then I think sometimes your issue I run into with them is a lot of government agencies, Billy, they forget that they're in the customer service space. Like, so I've seen them, some of that stuff is a little over the top sometimes. I don't think the TSA person should be yelling at me because I'm just trying to make my way through a line. You're right.
But customer service lacks in most industries these days.
Yeah. 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 We was going to I was going to teach customer service. I had like a 6-hour or 4, I think it was 4-hour class I put together, and the signups were next to nothing. And I was like, there's no way that folks this is a huge area that we need for development. I do think, Billy, that it goes back to kind of what we talked about on the election thing, is where when those used to be like, when there was, something that was, or a chief or whatever, or somebody within an agency had left a door, left a loose end that created some negative friction, that person would be moved or, demoted or what, like you said, the fire chief of the Palisades, like they offboarded her, but sometimes they just plant roots and those folks remain, or they get, they get another opportunity inside of the same, to create the same situation sometimes. And I always say, like, man, maybe it's better, even for me, because the other thing I didn't, when you look at it too, Billy, is police officers and in public safety too, is like when crap really gets bad, the county, or unless it's super on the other side, there's like you have to hire your own attorney. I think some of the stuff I went through was
Absolutely.
when it gets down to nuts and bolts and you're being scrutinized, like the county doesn't appoint you an attorney. There's no representation for that individual. That comes out of your pocket. And you're going to have to fund that. So that's why I always
Yeah,
say,
we
like,
would.
even for me, maybe sometimes I would move me from here so I don't have the opportunity for the lawsuit to, or the negative scrutiny to come in, right? It's about protecting the individual sometimes too. I think it's why we should move some folks around. I ain't saying fire everybody, but at least move them around.
Yeah, and I used to have to tell our folks a lot when we were talking about stuff that a lot of, each county has a county attorney, whether it be employed or contract. And I used to have folks that would say, well, if this happened, we got the county attorney to back them up. I'm like, no, They're here to protect the county. They're here to protect you.
Yeah.
They're a county attorney, not your attorney. And I used to have to, I had a gentleman that wrecked a fire truck when they hit a car in the back, knocked him over in a river, and minor injuries, but you know how that goes. And this guy was driving, how to get in contact with the county attorney, and I'm like, dude, it ain't gonna happen. The county attorney should, if this individual sues the county of Franklin, that attorney's going to defend the county of Franklin. If that family sues Billy Ferguson, that attorney ain't going to know Billy Ferguson. I mean, he's got to hire his own attorney. And those people do not understand that. And I'm a firm believer when you're in a situation like that, win or lose, it's going to cost you a ton of money because you're going to have to pay that attorney either way. If you win, you can certainly go back and get some of your money, but you got to front that money.
Yep.
Of course.
Billy, we're right on top of that hour, man. We said it's going to keep it about 60 minutes for the folks at home and tuning in. Man, great conversation. I'm glad we got to catch up. I got some other things I want to cover. So hopefully 2 weeks, folks, me and Billy will be back on in just to kind of keep some catch up. I got some things that I wanted to tell you folks from just my time working in law enforcement, some things that was in national news involving the Drug Enforcement Administration, and I'm just going to give you some insight on what working there was like from my perspective, and then just kind of unpack their recent media there. So I would make sure, as far as I know, I don't have any conflicts. If we do, I'll let you know, Billy. But that's me. If you need Jeff Robertson, man, head over to jeffreyrobertson.com. It's my name. There's a little link there where you can contact me and schedule with me, and let's work on your leadership or AI or marketing, whatever we can do to, whatever I can do to help you grow. I'm spending more time in leadership and AI probably in my business than I am in the marketing world, but so it's super fun. But Billy, tell us about Ferguson Safety Solutions and wrap us up, man. We'll close with you.
All right, appreciate it, Jeff. Good conversation. I enjoyed it tonight. We don't need to wait as long as we did before. And I was thinking I was going to be out of town in 2 weeks, but I won't be. I'll be out here in 3 weeks. So 2 weeks will work great. Ferguson Safety Solutions. You can get me at wferguson62@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Facebook at William Ferguson, or you can get a hold of Jeff. Jeff can hook you up with my phone numbers and all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking to have any questions as far as emergency management and developing emergency action plans, and OSHA, first aid needs, reach out to us and we can send you references. We'll be glad to help you out all we can. And, I think we can both learn something from each other, and we really appreciate the thousands of folks that tune in every week or every 2 weeks to hear us. And so thank you, Jeff, for letting me be here a couple times a month to chat about public safety, business, leadership, and lessons learned. We're working on this show to take the road about media and how things with that. But Jeff? Again, I appreciate it. Learned a lot. Had a lot of folks watching tonight, and I hope they learned something tonight.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you being here, Billy. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
I lost you there.
Welcome to the Jeff Robinson Show. He used to work in none of your business, and now he's in all your business. Welcome to the Jeff Robinson Show.